All right, so you ready to kind of like go inward for a little bit? We're going deep on this chapter called Consciousness Beyond Thoughts. It's like, can you imagine like quieting that inner voice that just never shuts up?
Yeah.
You know, the one that's always like, oh, remember that super awkward thing you did like 10 years ago? Or don't forget, you got to do this and this and this tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's interesting is this chapter doesn't tell us to ditch thinking altogether. In fact, it starts by saying that our minds are super
Right?
important.
They help us survive and create and, even stay safe. So then what's the deal with going beyond thought? It seems kind of backwards, right?
Well, think about it this way. Have you ever felt like you're mentally on a hamster wheel, just thoughts spinning and spinning and never getting anywhere?
Oh my gosh, all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, especially when I'm trying to go to sleep,
Mhm.
my mind decides it's time to replay every embarrassing moment ever. Like, not exactly the best sleep recipe.
Exactly. And the author's saying, all this thinking doesn't usually make you feel better or see things more clearly. It's like getting stuck in a loop of thoughts that aren't helpful, and it might even block us from a deeper awareness.
Okay, so how do we get off this mental hamster wheel?
Yeah.
I'm curious, but also a little like skeptical. Is that even possible?
The chapter says that our consciousness is way bigger than just our thoughts. It's like when your eyes take in a whole landscape, you don't have to label every tree and rock. You're aware of the whole thing without getting lost in the details.
So like we're talking about expanding our awareness to include our feelings and sensations and yeah, our thoughts, but without getting stuck on overanalyzing each one.
Exactly. And a lot of times our consciousness gets so focused on thoughts, it's like we're blindly following them even when they don't make sense or are bad for us. Have you ever made a decision you knew was a bad idea, but that little voice just wouldn't quit?
Oh yeah, totally. Like that time I decided to do karaoke after way too many margaritas. Yeah. My Bohemian Rhapsody, let's just say it didn't get a standing ovation.
Perfect example. It shows how easily we get caught up in our thoughts, even when they're leading us astray. But this chapter gives us a way to step back and observe those thoughts without getting swept away.
So how do we actually tap into that awareness that's beyond thinking? Is there like a secret password or something?
Well, the author uses this really cool metaphor to help us picture it. It's called white fire from the emptiness. Imagine a super bright white fire that represents pure awareness. As it cools down, it crystallizes into our thoughts and emotions.
I love that image. It's like our thoughts are kind of byproducts of this deeper, more basic awareness.
Yeah.
So how do we actually access this white fire inside us?
The chapter says visualization can be really powerful. Imagine that white fire within you. It can help you feel a sense of stillness and presence that's beyond all the mental chatter. And it's not about emptying your mind completely. It's more about shifting your perspective.
So instead of getting lost in the story our thoughts are telling, we're learning to watch them from a more detached, almost neutral place.
Exactly. And the chapter even gives us a really practical exercise to help us develop this awareness.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about it.
It's called the thinking exercise, and it's pretty simple. At random times during the day, you just stop for a sec and think to yourself, thinking.
That's it. No chanting, no incense, no like handstands.
Nope, no handstands needed.
Stuff.
It's about gently realizing that you're thinking without getting caught up in judging or analyzing those thoughts.
So it's like hitting pause on that mental movie that's always playing in our heads.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, according to the author, this simple practice can actually lead to some pretty big benefits over time.
Hey, spill the beans.
Well, the chapter says that developing this awareness can help us do better at stuff, communicate more clearly, and react more calmly when things get tough. It even says it can make us happier overall.
Okay, I'm sold. But how does just noticing our thoughts lead to all these amazing things?
It's all about detaching. By realizing that we are not our thoughts, we create a little space between ourselves and the emotions those thoughts might cause. This detachment can help us respond to things with more clarity and purpose instead of just reacting automatically.
So instead of getting swept away by a wave of anxiety or anger, we're learning to surf that wave.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And by becoming more aware of our thought patterns, we might even start to see which thoughts are helpful and which ones are just stressing us out for no reason. This awareness can give us the power to choose which thoughts we want to focus on.
This sounds a lot like mindfulness, which I've heard so much about. Is that what we're talking about?
There are definitely some similarities, but this chapter takes it a step further by saying that there's a level of awareness that exists beyond the mind completely.
Okay, my brain is officially fried.
Mhm.
You got to explain that one a little more.
Yeah.
What exactly do you mean by awareness beyond the mind?
Well, remember that white fire from the emptiness metaphor? The author is suggesting that this pure awareness, this fire, is always there even when we're lost in our thoughts. It's like the sky, it's always there even when it's cloudy.
So it's not that we need to create this awareness. It's more like we need to uncover it to peel back all the mental clutter that's hiding it.
Exactly. And the author emphasizes that this is an ongoing thing, a journey of constantly refining our awareness and getting a deeper understanding of ourselves.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not like we're going to reach some perfect state of no thoughts and be done with it. It's a constant practice, right?
Exactly. And the chapter says that by doing this practice, we can start to experience a big shift in how we relate to our thoughts.
So instead of being controlled by our thoughts, we're learning to watch them.
You got it. And that change in perspective can affect our whole lives.
This is all super interesting, but to be honest, part of me still wonders, what's the point? I mean, yeah, it would be great to feel calmer and more in control of my thoughts, but is there something bigger here?
That's a great question, and the author does talk about that near the end of the chapter. It's not just about feeling better, it's about tapping into a deeper part of ourselves, a level of awareness that's often hidden by all the noise in our minds.
Okay, but what does that even mean practically? How does this actually play out in our everyday lives?
Well, imagine for a second that you could handle every situation with clarity and presence without the burden of past regrets or worries about the future. Imagine really listening to people without your own mental chatter getting in the way. Imagine making choices from a place of deep inner knowing instead of being swayed by impulsive thoughts or what other people think.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. That sounds pretty awesome. But is that even possible? I mean, I'm all for personal growth, but sometimes it seems a little too good to be true.
The author admits it's not a quick fix and that developing this kind of awareness takes time and effort. But it's not about trying to be perfect. It's about slowly changing our perspective step by step and finding a deeper sense of peace and clarity that was always inside us.
That's a really encouraging thought. So what's the next step on this self-discovery journey? Where do we go from here?
The chapter ends with a powerful invitation to explore this idea of consciousness beyond thought by actually experiencing it.
So it's not just about reading about it. It's about putting these ideas into action.
Exactly. And the best part is you can start right now. Remember that simple thinking exercise we talked about?
Yeah, the one where I stop every so often and acknowledge that I'm thinking.
That's the one. The author suggests making this a regular thing, working it into your daily life. It's like planting a seed of awareness that if you keep watering, it can grow into a huge shift in how you see yourself and the world.
I'm definitely willing to try it. What's the worst that could happen? I get a little more mindful and a little less stressed.
Exactly. And who knows what other cool things you might discover along the way.
This has been a really enlightening conversation, but I'm curious what you personally find most compelling about this whole consciousness beyond thoughts thing.
What I find most fascinating is the idea that by quieting the mind, we create space for a deeper kind of knowing to come through. It's like we're tuning into a different channel, one that's not limited by what our thoughts tell us.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's like we're opening ourselves up to a whole new world of experience.
And that world, the author says, is where we can connect with our true selves, the core of who we are, beyond the stories our minds make up.
Wow, that's deep. It makes you wonder what we could all do if we started tapping into that deeper awareness.
That's the exciting part, isn't it? The journey of exploring our inner world is full of possibilities.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about, or maybe I should say a lot to not think about. But seriously, this has been a super insightful look at something I think a lot of people are interested in.
I agree. And I hope our listeners feel inspired to start their own exploration of consciousness beyond thought.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one main thing you want our listeners to take away today?
If there's one thing I hope you remember from this chat, it's that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that experiences those thoughts. And by growing that awareness, you open the door to a world of possibilities. It's like we got this treasure map, but the real treasure is like the journey itself, you know?
Yeah, and maybe the treasure is also finding those moments of peace and quiet in the middle of all the craziness of everyday life. Like the author's saying, there's a whole different way to experience everything if we could just get out of our own heads.
That's a really good way to put it. It's not about running away from reality. It's about seeing it more clearly without all our biases and, those beliefs that hold us back.
This makes me think about what could happen if more people tapped into this consciousness beyond thought thing. Could it actually change the world?
That is a super interesting question. The author doesn't really talk about the big societal impacts, but it's definitely something to think about. Imagine a world where people were more present, more compassionate, less reactive, and more connected to their own inner wisdom,
Wow, I would love to live in that world. But it all starts with each of us, right? With us deciding to explore our own inner worlds and develop that deeper awareness.
Absolutely. It's like that saying, be the change you want to see. If we want more peace, clarity, and compassion in the world, we got to start by living those things ourselves.
And this chapter gives us some really useful tools to do that. The thinking exercise, the white fire visualization, the idea of just watching our thoughts without judging them. We can use all of these things in our daily lives.
And don't forget, it's not about being totally thoughtless all the time. It's about progress, not perfection. Even little moments of awareness, those quick glimpses of the sky beyond the clouds, can make a big difference in how we experience life.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I have a totally new understanding of how powerful our minds are and how even more powerful that awareness beyond our minds is.
I'm really glad to hear that. And remember, this deep dive is just the start of your exploration. The real journey happens when you keep trying these ideas out and find what works for you.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into consciousness beyond thoughts. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we have.
And until next time, keep exploring that fascinating world inside and beyond your mind.
Happy exploring, everyone.